Never a dull moment in the state's capital. This week was no different. And we are joined, I want to jump right into the show with our guest this week, Senator Wieland. You were in the middle of everything this week. And I think the question that a lot of folks want to know, that we've heard the hyperbole, we've seen the Facebook post, what is a recusal and what was Monday night about?
Well, Monday had started off of being about senators and whether or not they had the right to recuse themselves from a vote. We started the session, brought up the motion to adopt a resolution that would have rejected the Pay Commission's recommendation, which is complicated enough to say all that.
Yeah.
But, and then Senator Eigel began by explaining why he felt he should recuse himself. A recusal basically is saying, I don't feel good consciously voting for or against this particular motion.
Sort of over conflicts of interest is what
Conflict
I've
of
seen,
interest, right. And the argument that he was making was that if he voted for it, he would benefit with a pay increase. And if he voted against it, he would benefit politically by being able to say, I voted against a pay increase for myself. So either way, he got something of value, and he's seen that as a conflict. I mean, I can see their argument. I didn't recuse myself, but I can understand that argument. So after he did it, then other senators started doing the same thing. Where it kind of got, went unprecedented was when Ryan Silvey, Senator Silvey from Kansas City, attempted to recuse himself. The floor leader objected. Because when you recuse yourself, according to Senate Rule 91, you stand up and you say, I seek unanimous consent to recuse myself from this vote. And by seeking unanimous consent, any senator on the floor can say, I object. Then you don't have unanimous consent.
And you have to vote on it, is that right?
Then we have to vote on it. So then the discussion shifted to, should a senator recuse themselves? And the discussion was, should another senator object to whether or not that senator has the right to recuse himself?
It was a very interesting filibuster. I wonder now if some Republican members have more sympathy for their Democrat friends who have to filibuster all the time. It was interesting to see Republicans filibustering on the floor. That's not something I think I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to see it more. I mean, there's more issues that people want to talk about, and I think a lot of that, I don't know if it was so much a filibuster, but I think a lot of those people had, it was like, hey, we've never had this happen. As far as everybody knows, in the history of the state of Missouri, no senator has ever objected to another senator recusing themselves. So we're on uncharted waters. And I think a lot of people wanted to be heard on saying, hey, here's what I think about this and here's what I think about that.
So ultimately the Senate, probably the Senate, individual senators won in the vote. The vote carried that people were allowed to recuse themselves from this vote.
I believe it was 19-14. Yes, yeah.
But so on the actual pay raise, explain what your vote was.
I voted no. Okay, I started off thinking that what we have here in Missouri is, because in the past the politicians said we don't want to get accused of paying for raising our own salary, so they've developed a commission that is a citizens commission. It's got governor appoints the people. Every 2 years they meet, they study what goes on across the country, and they make a recommendation saying that in order to keep Missouri in line with everybody else, here's what we think you ought to do. Now, the last time that they accepted the recommendation was 2007, so it's been 10 years since there's been any acceptance. The last 3 years, I voted to reject the recommendation. Last year, for example,
this year voting no meant you would have accepted it.
Right. So, like last year, for example, was a 14% increase. I thought that was ridiculous. Okay, this year was a 2% increase, and it hasn't been increased in over 10 years. And I think that, I thought, well, in order to attract good people to these offices, sooner or later we're going to have to keep up with stuff, okay? Now, I was leaning that way. During the debate, I was called into the pro tem's office, I had a meeting with the governor. That did not go well. As a result of that meeting, I was pretty much firmly going to vote no.
What can you tell us? A lot of folks talked about that. The governor went to social media. There was a lot of folks called in. Excuse me. What can you tell us about how that conversation went?
I don't want to talk a whole lot about what exactly happened, but the gist of it was the governor was of the opposite opinion of me. He wanted me to follow his lead on this particular issue. I don't respond well to pressure. And like I said, after that meeting, I was more determined to vote no than I was before I went into that meeting. And those tactics just don't work with me. I felt as an individual, if I'm going to allow, it could be the governor, it could be anyone, for that, thinks that they have power and authority over me, to pressure me into changing my vote or voting a certain way. You do it one time, and then forever, that person's going to come back and try to run you over again.
You said on the floor, was it intimidating or insulting?
Yeah, I thought it was. Yes, I did. And so I thought, if I do that now, the next time the governor needs something, the first senator he's going to come try to twist their arm is going to be me. So I had to vote no in order to be my own man and to be able to say, I will not allow other people to intimidate what I think is best for my constituents and for what I think is best for the citizens of the state.
So the governor goes on Facebook, writes a lengthy post, not very flattering of you or Senator Hoskins. But then, as I understand, he had a meeting with you guys to follow
Yes,
up.
I mean, in politics, you have your fights, and then you move on. And so Wednesday, the governor was gracious enough to give me a call and ask me to come down and visit with him. We had probably about a 30 to 40-minute conversation, kind of rehashed what had happened on Monday and Tuesday.
So where does your relationship stand now with the governor?
We came out of that meeting saying, we're both committed to working together for the citizens of the state and to move things forward, create jobs and opportunity for our citizens. So, I mean, it's yesterday's news as far as I'm concerned. Sure. We're moving forward. There's going to continue to be things that the governor and I work on and agree on, and there's going to be things that come up that we don't agree on.
Let's talk about one of the things you guys disagree on, that's right to work. The right to work bill passed the House, looks like final passage. Looks like it's headed to the governor's desk. It's probably there as folks watch this show. What do you think the effects of right to work are going forward? And what do you view the labor movement in Jefferson County after right to work?
Well, the right to work, I always opposed it, okay? And I don't think it's a good policy. However, now that we've got it, we're going to have to deal with it. One of the good things about this particular right to work bill was there's a grandfathering clause in there, which means that effective, the governor signs it on August 28th, things don't automatically change. If you're in a union contract right now and you have 3 years left in your contract, that contract's going to stay in place until that contract expires. When the contract renews, that's when the right to work portion of it will stay in. So this gives all the labor unions a period of time from now until the contract expires, a chance to, I guess you could say, either go out and reinvent themselves or to make an extra effort to convince their members that there's value and that they should stay dues-paying members of that union. My hope is that that's what they do and that we see something like I think has happened in other states to where after right to work is passed, union membership is actually increased. Sure. So I'm hoping that's what happens, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Let's discuss tort reform. You've worked on that a long time when you were in the House. It's collateral source expert witness moved through the House this week, coming over to the Senate. What do you think happens in the upper chamber?
Well, we passed Senator Emery's collateral source this week. That was the one bill that we were able to get out. I think we're going to see a lot of tort reform going through. Like anything, there's probably a dozen bills, and we'll probably pick out 4 or 5 of the most ones that we think are the highest priorities and get those through. There will be some pushback on some of them. Sure. I mean, there's in politics, not everybody agrees on every issue. I'm pretty firm on most tort-related items because I feel like that the pendulum swings one way or the other, and I think for too long the pendulum has swung in the favor of the trial attorneys, to where they can argue their cases in such a way that they're getting unfair rewards for the cases that are being brought. So I think we need to balance the playing field, and I think that's what a lot of the tort reform is trying to balance that playing field to give the defendants and the plaintiffs both equal opportunity and to have a fair judgment.
Before I let you go, the budget was released this week by the governor. What did you think?
The budget always interests me because nowhere but government is them not giving you what you ask for or cut. For example, the story out there is the governor cut $572 million from the budget. That's not really, it depends. Okay, so here's a cut. The departments asked for $572 million more than he gave them. It's not that we're spending $572 million less than we did last year, okay? To me, a cut is I have $100 this year, and next year I got $90, that's a 10% cut. The way the government works is I had $100 this year, I ask you for $125 next year, you say you're getting $110, and I'm like, that's a $15 cut. So that's the way the government. So there are programs, from the brief amount of time that I had to review it, there are programs that are really being cut. That we're going from a certain amount to zero, okay, that I would say is a true cut. We just have to control the budget. I didn't see anything in the budget that I thought was horrible. I think the governor's got a very tough job.
Yeah.
Even though I had, I guess you could say, issues this week, I got to admire him for his passion. I got to admire him for his willingness to want to get out there and change the way we do business in the state. I think those are good things. And I think this budget on the surface is good, and not everybody gets what they want. I know I'm a big port fanatic. I want to invest in ports. Last year we had $5.6 million for ports. This year we got about 3.5. So that we're getting less money. That's their cut, okay? Now, if we would have asked for 9 and we got 5 point, then that's not a cut. Then we got what we got last year. But it was actually a cut. But we have to cut places because the cost of Medicaid continues to soar.
Sure.
And you got to come up with those dollars, and that means you got to do less other places.
Well, as these discussions go through session, we hope you'll come back and talk with us on This Week in Missouri Politics.
I sure will. Enjoyed it. Thanks.
Senator, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with our Opinion Maker panel. James Harris, Man of the Hour, is going to join us. But first, we'll leave you with this week's leading Missouri economic indicators.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
At Ameren, Missouri, we're committed to providing cleaner energy
for generations to come.
Our new state-of-the-art solar energy center is a great example of that commitment. It's part of our long-range plan to deliver more than 30% of our power from cleaner resources.
Making sure your energy future is not just brighter,
but cleaner too. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back. We have our Opinion Maker panel. Stephen Roberts back on the show. Welcome, Representative.
Glad to be here.
Jane Duker, friend of the show, all sorts of media law. I don't even know. Which hat are you on today?
I'm just media today, just
media
commentary.
Today. Right, just commentary. James Harris, welcome back to the show, sir.
Good to be here.
Representative Dean Plocker, welcome back, sir, from here in St. Louis.
Thank you for having me. It's been a good week.
James Harris, since I've known you, you've talked about tort reform, right to work, and it's becoming a long time ago that we've known each other. Big week for you. Congratulations. Tell me what the effects are of this and how quick is right to work law?
Well, thank you. There were a lot of people that were a part of this. I mean, a lot of people that began the effort 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, people like Rob Mayer and Brad Lager from that are no longer in the legislature. I think it is law within a week or two. I think the statute calls for 15 days for the governor to review the bill. I think he'll act much quicker. And I think this will have a huge impact. If you look in Wisconsin, if you look in Michigan, Indiana, within a year of right to work taking effect, you saw manufacturers relocating and you are seeing wages growing faster. And that's good. And hopefully we'll see that here in a year or so.
Representative, I know you've supported this. I like the fact that's one of the first times somebody's actually said, hey, within a year, we'll see some benefits. Do you think that's about right?
I think, as people pointed out on the floor, this is not necessarily the silver bullet, but it's part of the package. It's not the deal maker, but it's a deal breaker. And I think it's clearly going to help. Missouri's lagged behind in job creation, wage growth. This is a start in the right direction, and we've needed this for years. You know, this has been going on since before I was born, and a lot of people have been there and put their whole career into this. And to simply press that green button was quite easy for me, and I'm I'm thrilled to be a part of it all, and I do believe Missouri will see some immediate or short-term benefits. I think long-term, though, they'll even be better.
Representative Roberts, I heard Representative Carpenter from Kansas City do a pretty good job of talking about other right-to-work states that maybe aren't the utopian. I've heard a lot of folks say that right-to-work is going to be very good and make a lot of promises. Let's say some of the things don't happen in 2018.
Well, if those things don't happen, I mean, I think that our side's going to be pushing to get that repealed and taken back.
Jane Duker, this has been a long time going back and forth. This has been an issue Republicans have fought over forever. But I do business in other states that have right-to-work laws. They're still pretty active unions.
Well, no, and I think unions will always be able to make the case that they provide value, and they do. The sad part is this was sort of a solution without a problem. I mean, Missouri created more jobs than all of the surrounding right-to-work states. I mean, we've done well here. Management and labor get along well here in Missouri. It's not been the problem. But saying that now, I mean, now it's time to put up or shut up. Now we will see quickly whether this was a good idea or not, and I think it is important for us to hold them accountable and say, look, you said this was going to do A, B, and C, and when it doesn't, which we firmly believe it will lower wages, and I mean, I thought that Republicans were about not interfering with contracts between private people, but this seems to be a departure from that, and I will see if it works.
You're an attorney. I've seen you involved in all sorts of different cases and deals. Is there really no merit to the right to work keep some companies from looking at Missouri?
I don't believe there is, because you didn't have big companies going up to Jeff City saying we need this. And if it were that important, why not put it to a vote of the people?
James, I've seen very few absolutes in public policy, but it seems like there's got to be some companies that doesn't look at Missouri because of right to work.
Absolutely. Over the years, I've brought site selection companies in, consultants that businesses hire to go, where should we open our new factory? And depending on the company, it's been 50 to 70% of them will say being a right to work is a must. They won't even look at a state that's not a right to work. And so I think it's essential. And for business, if you're a St. Louis business, you can't really come to the Capitol and say, I support right to work, especially if you have a union shop. So, I mean, the fact is, if you look at where the manufacturing base has shifted over the last 25 years in the United States, it's been to right to work states.
You know, Representative, I've seen some of your colleagues want to be anti-union, castigate the unions, kind of kick them while they have a chance to. I've seen some legislators like yourself talk about this is for you believe the economic benefit of the state. Do you believe now this is over, sort of some of the anti-union stuff, and there might be a way to find peace? Because there are some union shops that want a union.
Oh, I clearly think so. And actually, I look at the whole context of this argument as emotional. You had some really good people on both sides of the aisle who fervently believe in helping Missouri's workers. This is not an anti-union bill. It certainly isn't for me. Both of my grandfathers were in unions.
I heard some of your colleagues make it that.
Well,
and I heard some folks like yourself make it about the economy.
Well, I think when you seemingly are attacked by big money on both sides, let's be honest, a lot of money flew into races this last cycle with both sides, and that kind of creates a little bit of animosity. And maybe you do take it personally. I didn't. I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we come together. We're all in this to help the Missouri worker, and we'll do that.
Stephen Roberts, I know you do a lot of business as well, not just a legislator. I see other states. I see after right to work is passed, unions don't go away. It's not the end of the labor movement, correct?
No, it's not the end of the labor movement, but it makes it much more difficult for them. And I think that's going to hurt us in the long run.
Going forward, though, my prediction is there'll probably be a transition period, but I don't think Missourians or Missouri elected officials are the last of organized labor, do you?
Absolutely not.
Let's talk about a different budget, a different issue that is maybe even more juicy than right to work if you could possibly imagine. The drama in the Senate Monday night. We had Senator Wieland in. It looks like he was pretty candid that I'm going to stick up for myself. And then he was pretty candid that, hey, we shook hands, we're going to move forward. Do they move forward, Jane Duker?
I mean, I think it's hard. The Senate is not like the House. Each of these senators are independent, and I've been on both sides where you had the Senate in your party, and I've been in the side where you didn't have the Senate in your party. And sometimes it's more challenging to have it, it's your friends you got to worry about. It's not usually your enemies. Your enemies, you know what they're going to do. Yeah. It's usually your friends that it makes it more difficult. I mean, I think it was a lot of hullabaloo when there's a lot of important stuff. I think the Senate was probably going to do the right thing regardless. But, and frankly, I think legislators should either get a raise or do it every other year, because we're not going to get the cream of the crop. You talk about wanting to get good people to come down to Jeff City and do the people's work, And I think you have to give them more than $36,000 for 5 months.
You're a veteran of this, James Harris. You've seen this happen before with Republicans at all three branches of government. The pay raise issue, whatever, but as far as, do you believe they can have this fight, and then how do you really move forward?
I think they're making the press made partly a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, part of this is a transition going from a governor, previous governor who had no engagement with the legislature, no leadership skills, to a governor that is driven and leading. And so it's a little bit of a change for the Republicans to have someone who is going to voice, lead, and that's good.
Even if Chris Koster won, he would have been more engaged. Even people that defend the governor, I think, have to admit it was a strategy of his not to engage a lot towards the end of his term, correct? So no matter who was governor, it was going to be some reentry issues.
So it's a little bit, I would call it just a transition for the legislature. You now have a governor that's going to lead, and his party, and it's just a little bit of a change, but I think it'll all work out here soon.
Dean Blocker, you, like all of us, kind of heard what happened Monday night. If that happened to one of your colleagues, you'd probably look to leadership to have their back, right? Do you think the Senate leadership, by delaying the confirmations of some of the department appointees, do you think that's enough?
Well, I'm going to echo a little bit about what Jane said and James. So the Senate and the House are different. I mean, the different leadership mechanisms in the House. I'm proud to have Speaker Richardson. He would come to our aid, and I can't speak for how the Senate operates. They're their own little island nations over there. The drama that played out that evening was simply that. It was just drama over an issue that I think will go away. I mean, I'm looking to the positive thing here. What really caught us off guard is that we had a governor engage. We had a governor go over to the big house, if you will, over there, the state capitol, and actually face-to-face talk to people. I look to the positive. That's encouraging.
Pretty closely face-to-face.
I'll really be positive when he finds out where the mezzanine offices are for us House reps. So, I'm looking at positive things. I mean, we're moving other things forward, and just a little plug in here. We moved two other bills this week through the House as well, my UCC bill and my DWI fix. The UCC bill is another part of the component to help Missouri jobs and help Missouri's
Word around the Capitol is if
employers.
you want your bills moved, get them on Plocker's bills.
I don't know, but
The Plocker
we're working
vehicle?
forward and we're moving things the right way.
Representative, let me ask you this question: if you were called in and got pretty contentious, and then went to social media, you probably expect your leader to have your back, right? Let me ask you this question going forward, though. You're a younger member of the legislature. I know you've got a lot of handle on tech. I've seen some of the stuff you do. Do you think the social media stuff helped or hurt from the governor?
I think in this situation it probably hurt. He won the battle in that sense, and I don't think it was necessary for him to kind of go out and, I guess, push back on them after he got the result he needed.
Quick prediction, Jay Duker. Do you think that going forward the governor's as quick on the trigger with the Twitter and the Facebook?
I would hope not, because I do think it's destructive. And I think you've got to have a relationship with these people. And this was a little rough for early in the session. So hopefully both sides have said, okay, we're going to communicate. Maybe let's not take it outside and give away people's phone numbers and things.
Jim, do you think that, like anybody, you're going to learn stuff? Do you think he's a little slower to jump on the Facebook and slam people?
I think the governor will continue to go directly to the people to communicate, and I think he's found that social media is a great medium for him to go to the people directly, and I think he'll continue.
Keeps at it? Do you think the governor's as quick to take legislators on social media?
I don't know about indirectly addressing particular legislators. I hope that he maybe addresses us as a body as opposed to making it appear to be personal or individual. But I don't think he backs off of social media. I think the age that we're moving into, from the president to our governor, social media and the direct communication with the voters proves to be paramount to how they want to get their message out there.
It's frustrating from a media standpoint, but I think that's where it's going, whether you like it or don't like it. I also don't think that's an Eric Greitens thing. I think that's a new generation of leaders that's
wholeheartedly agree.
Whether it's frustrating, but it's maybe reality. Let's talk about something that's frustrating some other folks. Give me a quick prediction on where tort reform goes. You guys moved out collateral source, expert witness, quick.
We did.
Do you think that makes it across the finish line?
I do. I particularly think expert witness makes it across the finish line. Representative Corlew had this bill last year, had it again this year. He showed great willingness to work with all of us in the House. In fact, I worked with him Representative Burns and the Speaker. We added an amendment on there that I thought made sense, and so I think the willingness to work with the whole body has helped. And I think that clearly goes. I think we had collateral source go through very well as well. Joe Don's bill. Now, the Senate, again, is unpredictable. The Senate has its version over in the House, though, of collateral source. So one of those is going to go. We're looking at other motivating factor employment discrimination bills. There's a lot yet to be done. I think that they are looking at MMPA. What bills go on further, I don't know. But we also, I think labor reform is still the hot topic. I still think we got right to work done this week. We're working on prevailing wage, and we're working on paycheck protection. And I think paycheck protection is up for perfection next week.
James Harris, you know a lot about tort reform. Do you think this is the year that goes, or is the Senate could be a place where things go to die?
I think it goes, and I think it's probably a 2-year effort. I mean, our state tort environment is toxic. If you're, I brought my little prop here. This is from the American Tort Reform Association. 6 of the last 10 years, we've been on this report.
You sure that's not a poster for an AC/DC concert?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
But our environment's bad. And so, like, just out of St. Louis this year, we had 3 judgments against Johnson & Johnson totaling nearly $197 million from plaintiffs that were not Missourians. And it was a group that came here because it was the best place in the nation to bring their lawsuit. Well, that's not good. That article was in Bloomberg. It was in the Wall Street Journal. This is, Missouri is becoming known as a state that has a toxic lawsuit environment. And so I think it's going to take quite a bit of time. And I would add, I think step 1 is tort reform. And then we have to move on to our courts, where the majority of our courts for the last at least 15 years has been controlled by liberals.
I think that'll be the interesting, quick prediction. Do you think these bills move?
Yes.
Do you think tort reform? Do you think this year Jane Duker tort reform's here?
Yeah, but I would be careful on the nonpartisan court plan. I don't think
I think that's that may be the real fight that even Republican lawyers would be interested in how they go. Quick prediction, with a minute left, who won the week?
I'd say our speaker, Todd Richardson. I think, at least as far as in the House, he gave our side an opportunity to voice our opinions. I think that it was a very respectful dialogue between all the members.
I think he's made a point of that. I even told a joke about Carpenter on the floor, and he said, we've always recognized him, and I think that's true. Jay Duker, who won the week?
Lyda Cruzan. She's really got the momentum here in the city, polling and endorsements. Yeah. She's up on TV. She's going to be up on TV until the end, and she's doing her work.
James, who won the week?
Senate President Ron Richard. He put right to work on the governor's desk in less than a month.
Who won the week?
The Missouri voter. This whole election was about getting everything done that the House is getting done, the Senate's working on. Speaker Richardson has done an excellent job of working towards accomplishing that mission. And by the way, he hasn't had to PQ and
Representative have consequences.
Exactly.
I think who won the week, I have a very special one. One person that's very kind of the Missouri Times, John Compass, had a new baby this week. And our executive producer, editor of the Missouri Times, Rachel Herndon, welcomed Harper Dunn into the world. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week on This Week in Missouri Politics. This Week in Missouri Politics, brought to you by Spire and Sterling Bank.